So today's session we will continue with our Canto One overview. There are total 19 chapters of the Canto One. Vyasadeva is the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the most important personalities in the Canto One. These are the personalities who are going to speak or being spoken about. So Srila Vyasadeva speaks many verses. Suta Goswami speaks many verses, and the Shaunakadi rishis ask question. So these are the three main personalities, and everything that goes around about Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj in one sense. We may be speaking completely something unrelated, externally, but it's all pointing towards Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami, and we will see that how it's. If you see the whole 19 chapters, it could be just laid out in this particular structure. The first chapter, the first three verses are about the subject matter of the book. Why another book? So many books were written by Srila Vyasadeva. He wrote all the Puranas, all the everything. So why another book? So that brings out the glories and the speciality of Srimad Bhagavatam. And also, these first three verses speak about the audience and the blessings also. So the first three verses gives all these aspects. And the chapter one offers an introduction to Suta Goswami and Shaunakadi Rishis. And the Shaunakadi Rishis will ask many questions. And those questions actually lead us to Bhagavatam. So that is why Vyasadeva is choosing this particular version. And also Shukadeva Goswami actually has given his blessings to Suta Goswami. So these questions are very important. Though they may look like they are unrelated questions, eventually these are the very questions that lead to the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. And those six questions are answered in the two chapters, the following two chapters, 2 and 3. And those two chapters actually bring out the objective of the book. That is, it establishes Krishna as the Supreme Lord and Bhakti as the best method to please the Supreme Lord. So that is the main objective. Though answering these six questions, indirectly it brings out the objective of the book. And directly it brings out at the end, the last sixth question is about Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So then that sparks the questions about, oh, so then what about Srimad Bhagavatam? When was it written? Why was it written? And all of those things come into picture, which describing the history of Srimad Bhagavatam in chapters 4 and 6. And then you will see Krishna is going to Dwaraka, Kunti is speaking, Bhishma Dev is speaking, Yudhishthira Maharaj is like unconvinced, crestfallen that he doesn't want to become a king. Bhishma Dev convinces him, and then Krishna leaves to Dwaraka, and then all of these chapters goes on, and then we realize like this is all about Parikshit Maharaj's birth. And then we will see Arjuna goes to Dwaraka and then returns back, and he's unconsolable, and then all the Pandavas are leaving the kingdom. Dhrita and Gandhari and all of them are also leaving, and then the Pandavas are leaving. We're thinking like, what's happening here? And this is all about Parikshit Maharaj. How did he become a king? Like, what are the circumstances that led him to becoming the king? And then we will see Parikshit Maharaj. How does he rule and how does he control Kali? So that is his activities and glories. So his birth and the background of how he became a king, and then what are the kind of activities he did after becoming a king, how gloriously he ruled. And that's all discussed in the chapter 17 to 18. And also the curse that happened, and why was he cursed despite having such great background. So why was Parikshit Maharaj cursed to die in 7 days? So that is also being discussed. And then the chapter 19 brings about the glories of Shukadeva. Like there were so many sages, and still Shukadeva was offered the seat to speak Srimad Bhagavatam. So that part brings out the glories and the greatness of Shukadeva. So there are many other details that will come in the future slides and in future presentations. So is there any questions here? I will be elaborating on each of these things later. So this is just setting the scene. The actual conversation between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj will happen from Canto 2. What they actually spoke will be starting from Canto 2, and then the actual subject matter start from Canto 3. The first two cantos and the first four chapters of Canto 3, all of them together are considered more of an introduction, setting the mood, and giving a background so that we can actually relish when they start speaking the stuff. Just quickly repeating this particular structure. So this contains all the chapter 19, but we're just seeing in a very high level. If you start going into the between chapter 7 and 18, you will see so many things. So that is why this chart can help you, because when you start reading those translations, if you keep in mind, oh, this is all coming for the sake of birth of Parikshit Maharaj or activities or glories of Parikshit Maharaj, it gives a better context. And before going to the next kind of classification, I'll just elaborate this then, because many are with elaborating this particular structure. So, subject matter of the book. So, we all know the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam is Sri Krishna. However, Bhagavatam approaches the topic of Sri Krishna, means the person of Sri Krishna, in a more philosophical sense. Because Satvika Puranas, I already described what is a Satvika Purana, how are they different from Rajasic and Tamasic Puranas. Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental. However, in terms of classification, it is put within the Satvika Puranas. And the nature of Satvika Puranas is that Satvika Puranas always ask questions which are universal in nature, and they approach a subject matter in a more universal style or fashion. So that is why here it does not, like Vyasadev does not just say, I'm going to speak about Krishna. And the sages does not ask the first question as, please speak about Krishna. They don't do that. Rather, they bring out a very universal thing as Vyasadeva addresses Krishna as the supreme absolute truth. So that is not very sectarian. So that makes the approach towards the Supreme Lord in a very universal way, because he says everything comes from him, everything is created by him, everything, all the material creation is manifested by him and maintained and annihilated by him. So, in that way, he gives a very universal perspective to God. The first verse is the subject matter of the book, which is the supreme absolute truth. We are probably going to dedicate 1 week just for those first 3 verses. Even a full week is like less. Still, we might have to dedicate one full session for just those 3 verses, paying our respect, and then we will move on to the other ones in a very fast way. Why another book? So many books have been written by Vyasadeva, so why this book? That history will be described later, but here, very short, Vyasadeva gives an indication. He says, in the maturity of, in the spiritual realization, it is written by me, like he says, Mahamuni. So he refers to him as indirectly. So it is written by Vyasadeva in the highest spiritual maturity that he attained. And also the glories is mentioned in terms of, just a minute, I'll finish this line of thought and then I'll take. And then the glories of Bhagavatam also comes through, like how it establishes the real religion, and it helps us distinguish reality from illusion, and also it helps us overcome the influence of the 3 modes and all that, 3 miseries. So his spiritual maturity was that his compassion became more refined, became more appropriately aligned with the vision of the Lord. So his spiritual maturity is that his compassion led to revelation of Krishna's glories. So there are many levels of compassion. Helping someone with food, water, shelter, that is also very important. And also helping people on the emotional level of being an emotional support, and all that level is also very important. At the same time, here Vyasadeva is like helping the whole world for all the time to come, at least for the until the end of the Kali Yuga, that he is revealing the glories of Krishna exclusively, so that we can become purified and then make our journey, make our attempt to return back to God easier. That is considered a higher level of compassion, and that he is revealing through his own realization. So that's why it is called as the spiritual maturity, basically a very high level of compassion being done on his part. Vyasadeva says that this particular book actually defeats all other kind of cheating religion and establishes real religion. And also he says that how it helps one uproot the miseries of material existence. And also he gives special blessings that he says immediately, if anyone attentively hears, Krishna will be manifested in their heart. So in this way, he gives a lot of glories and speciality and blessings. In the notes that we shared in the WhatsApp group, there are 3 levels of audiences discussed in these first 3 verses. That is the audience who are very attentive, who are very eager and devoted, and they will have certain effect, which is the cessation of the 3 material modes of material miseries. and the ability to handle those three miseries. And also the next level of audience is those who are completely non-envious. So something very different and more sweet will be revealed to them. They will be able to appreciate Krishna's glories even more. And then there is another level of audience, which is who are on the platform of bhava and prema. They'll be able to experience even more higher level of relishment in the pastimes of Krishna. So those three levels of audience are also mentioned indirectly in these first three verses. So with the audience also, there are three levels. We saw the blessings are also there, that anyone who engages in any of those levels, they all have their own advantages and taste that they can relish from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Vyasadeva, the author, is introducing Sutta and Shravanaka rishis. They will in turn be introducing Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj to us in this throughout this canto. This particular slide is looking at Canto 1 from the perspective that how everything is about Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So that's what I'm going to explain now. From chapter 1 till chapter 19, it's all about these two personalities. There is nobody else. So how can you say that Sukadeva Goswami is being discussed in chapter 1? If you see the first particular three verses, the most important verses, Dev uses, how is he describing Srimad Bhagavatam? He is describing Srimad Bhagavatam, that is, this Bhagavatam is a nectar from the mouth of Shukadeva. He is going to immediately quote Sutta Goswami, and he has spoken Bhagavatam to Goswami, but he is not referring to any of them. He is not referring to himself, though he calls himself as the author, but he is clearly stating that he is putting down the version of Shukadev Goswami. And this particular version he is sharing is actually he is crediting it to Shukadev Goswami, though immediately he is going to speak about the conversation between Suta Goswami and the Shaunakadi Rishis, because Suta Goswami and Shaunakadi Rishis are a layer or an external layer just to bring about Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj's introduction and glories. So in that sense, the very introduction to Bhagavatam itself is done as this is a nectar which flowed from the lips of Shukadev. So that is why I'm again saying all the chapters are related to Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And then you will see in the first three chapters, the question will come, tell where Dharma has taken shelter. And immediately Sutta Goswami will say, I heard Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami, and I'm going to explain to you. Like that is what will come again in the chapter 3 end also. Again, Bhagavatam will be referred to in the context of the conversation between Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So indirectly, we are still discussing about Shukadev Goswami and how did he receive Srimad Bhagavatam. That history is also, we are seeing that how Narada Muni got Bhagavatam from Bhakti Vedantas, and then how he spoke to Vyasadeva, and then eventually it ends with Vyasadeva giving this knowledge to Shukadeva Goswami. So even though we are discussing about Vyasadev's confusion, despondency, and Narada Muni coming and chastising him, and then explaining his own personal life to inspire Vyasadeva to write glories of Krishna, all of that culminates in Vyasadeva teaching Srimad Bhagavatam to Shukadeva Goswami ultimately. And then we will see again this same personality, Sukadeva Goswami, will manifest at the end of the Canto 1. And all kinds of sages are there. You can just think of a sage, be it Agastya or be it Gautama or any kind of sages, all their names are given. And then there are three, what you call, avatars sitting there. Parashuramji, Vyasadevji, and Narad Muni. All of them are sitting, and still they actually happily choose Shukadev Goswami to be the speaker. So from beginning till the last chapter, every now and then we will see how everything is about Shukadev Goswami in some of these chapters. And then the other personality, of course, is Parikshit Maharaj. From chapter 7, we see Uttara as like kind of pregnant, and I'm sorry, before that, like Draupadi is and all Draupadi's sons are being killed, and then in that they're going to arrest, they're going to arrest Ashwatthama. So this is where Bhagavatam actually begins. This is where the Mahabharata ends to some extent, and that's where Bhagavatam actually picks it up. So right when the war is over, and immediately Mahabharata, from there actually Bhagavatam picks it up. And here we see Ashwatthama being arrested and being punished for his sin of killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi. And then that insult actually makes him even more infuriated. And then he releases what you call Brahmastra. And eventually it leads to the place where Uttara is having the last surviving heir of the Pandava dynasty, that is Maharaj Parikshit, yet to be born in her womb. And then he releases a specific Brahmastra weapon to attack child in the womb of Uttara, who will be Parikshit later. And then the Lord appearing and saving him. So we will see Parikshit Maharaj's birth is dramatically shown. It does not start at that point. It starts little before. So that, like, if you see the camera techniques, even in the movies, they don't just directly show the object. They start with a sign and a pillar or a leaf or something. Slowly the camera pans to the actual subject of the frame, actual person. So similarly here, Bhagavatam also does not straight start with Parikshit Maharaj's birth, but the background to it. That Ashwatthama being arrested is one of the backgrounds to it. And from there it starts. And then eventually we see how Krishna protects Parikshit Maharaj. So birth is being described. But Shukadev Goswami gets lost. He becomes so ecstatic that he forgets what he is speaking, and then he starts following Krishna when he leaves to Dwarka. So Shukadev Goswami just starts, Suta Goswami just starts explaining, oh, Krishna started going after staying many months and protecting all of them. Now the war is over. Yudhishthira Maharaj is established as a king. So he leaves to Dwarka. And then he says, how does he reach Dwarka? What happens in Dwarka and all of those things. And the sages of Naimisharanya, Shaunakadi rishis, are confused. Suta Goswami, we understand you are ecstatically following Krishna, but that's not the subject matter you began to speak. We wanted to hear about Parikshit Maharaj's birth, activities, and glories, but in between you are speaking too much about Krishna. And this may look like disconnected when you just read Bhagavatam, like you don't understand why this chapter of that chapter. But those three chapters where Dwarka Vasis are being described, Krishna's travel to Dwarka is being described. What do you think? Can you guess, like, what is that is bringing out when the speaker is losing his track and speaking about something unrelated, but still he is only speaking about Krishna out of his ecstasy? So what do you think brings out? I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
Probably it means that there is nothing such as disconnected in the Bhagavatam. Everything is connected, or everything, like, it may seem that the speaker is going out of topic, but
There
is
is
not.
a meaning to it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's very true. What specifically will bring about the nature of the speaker? Like, what does it show?
That he's only thinking about Krishna.
Yeah, so
So
he's how he is attached to Krishna, and that is actually in one way showed as a qualification of Suta Goswami. The Shaunaka the rishis were not actually irritated. Like, you remember, you just imagine, like, I today I'll just tell you that I'm going to speak on Canto One summary, and then I speak on Bhagavad Gita. Like, you'll be thinking, like, what happened? Like, why? Like, there can be like a little bit of a frustration. Like, no, like, what is this? What are you doing? Like, is this like kind of confused, something like that? There you see Shaunaka the rishis, they actually look at each other and smile. They're like actually ecstatic, assuming that their speaker is so qualified, that he is so attached to Krishna and addicted to Krishna, that he is forgetting the topic. That does not make them like kind of like confused or irritated. Rather, it reinforces their faith in Suta Goswami. They become completely attached to Suta Goswami now. They really want to hear from Suta Goswami. They don't want to stop him stop, like, they don't want him to stop speaking. So that these are the chapters which actually reinforces the faith of Shaunaka the rishis in Suta Goswami. That's when he completes all of his narrations, they ask him more questions. They don't let him stop actually. So again, the Adhikari Tattva that I was speaking about in the Canto One is brought out in those chapters, that how qualified Suta Goswami was, and his qualification was his attachment to Krishna. And again, we will see the same thing. What was Parikshit Maharaj's qualification? He was attached to Krishna. What was Shukadeva Goswami's attachment? He was also very attached to Krishna. So in that way, that Adhika and that qualification of these personalities are brought about in the Canto One again. So when you read yourself all the translations, always have this particular thought in your mind, like, what is this particular chapter bringing about this in relation to Adhikari Tattva? What kind of qualifications of the speaker and the hearer is it bringing about? how to study Bhagavatam. Is it bringing any principle of how to study Bhagavatam in this chapter? So that also we can see. And also you can see the thread. How is it this related to Parikshit Maharaj? How is this related to Sukadeva Goswami? You can see that thread also. And because we are not going to sit and read every single translation together. So that's why I'm giving you an idea. So when you read the translation, so that your own study becomes more, what you call, like kind of more connected and useful, and you feel excited. If you start seeing threads, you will feel more excitement. So that is why I'm explaining these things. So these will be helpful only when you pick up the book and you start reading the translations, keeping these contexts before you. How is this verse or this chapter relates to these things? Even if that immediate verse does not relate to, you can step out and see in a bigger context that whole conversation. How is it relating to either Parikshit Maharaj or Shukadeva Goswami or Adhikari Tattva or methodology of studying Srimad Bhagavatam and all of these things. So then we see in the chapters after the sages of Shanya come and say, we understand you are in ecstasy, please come back. We wanted to actually hear about Parikshit Maharaj. So they literally tell him, Goswami, you're amazing, you're great, you're so absorbed in ecstasy. But we were thinking we are about to hear about Parikshit Maharaj. Do you think you can speak about Parikshit Maharaj? They literally ask him. And how they ask Sudama is very sweet. They say, if you think in Parikshit Maharaj's life, if it is related to Krishna, then you can speak. Because he's so absorbed in Krishna, to ask him speak on some other topic can look like little jarring to him. So they are reminding him, do you think Parikshit Maharaj's life is also related to Krishna? If you think so, that Parikshit Maharaj's life has some connection to Krishna, please speak about that. So in that way, they are like kind of giving him a direction. Yes, Parikshit Maharaj's life is also has some connection with Krishna. Would you like to go there? So then he starts speaking about. So then he realizes, yeah, I was speaking about Parikshit Maharaj. So then he comes back. Abruptly, he stops about Krishna's pastimes in Dwaraka, and he immediately jumps to the topic of Parikshit Maharaj. He does not start saying Parikshit became a king. No, he says that how Yudhishthira Maharaj ruled very well, how Yudhishthira Maharaj performed so many Ashwamedha sacrifices, how they collected a lot of wealth and they performed such nice sacrifices, and the kingdom was flourishing so amazingly. And then Arjuna goes to Dwarka to see Krishna, and he does not come back for a very long time. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is very confused. There is no news from Arjuna whatsoever. And it's very uncharacteristic that he is staying for so long there and he's not sending any message. When he is thinking like that, Arjuna comes back and he's very morose. He's very crestfallen, completely, what do you call, like sobbing and like very unconsolable. And that's when Yudhishthira Maharaj asks him many questions. What is the reason? Is this is the reason? Is that is the reason? All kinds of reason he asks. At the last, he asks, did Krishna leave the planet? Is the last question he asks. Like, because his heart is also like sometimes like I remember when my mom was sick. If I got a missed call in the middle of the night, I'll be like, oh my God, like I hope it's not that she's serious or something. We know something might be bad, but we hope it's not the case. So similarly here, Yudhishthira Maharaj, the first look at Arjuna, he realizes it can only be that Krishna left this world. But he does not want to ask that as the first reason. His heart cannot actually, he wishes, I wish there it was another reason. So he asks like 10, 15 other reasons. And then at last, when Arjuna is not answering to anything, he asks, did Krishna actually leave the planet? And Arjuna breaks down. So then they all realize it's time for us to actually leave. So before that, Dhritarashtra leaves home. And then the Pandavas actually leave home. And we are thinking, why Canto One starts with such hard stories, like really like very intense. There's no, the first story that Bhagavatam speaks about is like Draupadi's 5 sons being killed. It doesn't start with anything like kind of romantic or anything which is bubbly. No, straight like 5 sons of Draupadi being killed, and Ashwatthama is attacking them with Brahmastra after Brahmastra. And then Krishna leaves the planet, and Dhritarashtra and all of them go, they leave, and then Krishna leaves, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj and Pandavas, all of them leave the kingdom. This is all actually to show that how the flow of time works. Even if someone is as great as the Pandavas, we have to give up everything in this world. So it brings about a little bit of detachment. It shows the harsh side of the material world to develop detachment in the heart of the reader. Oh wow, like I thought everything is like just because Krishna is involved, everything is rosy. But real life is like a hard struggle. And it's not that a devotee life means everything is going to be smooth and I'll just be taking shelter of Krishna because everything is smooth. Here we see devotee after devotee taking shelter of Krishna in Canto One, all through difficulties. So all of these things, psychology is all put into Bhagavatam in the way it is being narrated. That knowingly, unknowingly, it kind of gives us all these lessons and brings us these wisdoms. So if somebody is able to see that and realize it, that's well and fine. Otherwise, you have at least some story to study. At least you will read, oh, I got this story, I understood the story. And that is the first layer of studying Bhagavatam. You just see the stories. But the second level of reading Bhagavatam is, what is this story telling me? How is it applicable in my life? How is it actually helping me study Bhagavatam seriously and apply this in a different way? So the other layer of meaning also comes out. And eventually we see that Parikshit Maharaj becomes a king, and he rules and then his rule is, the way he ruled the kingdom is explained very nicely in an elaborate way for a few chapters. And specifically, him controlling Kali is given a good chunk of space in the Canto One. Why is it that, again, him controlling Kali is considered as one of the hallmark activities of Parikshit Maharaj? In two ways. That as a ruler, when the ruler is good, then he can actually bring about a lot of change. Even though Kali has manifested, he was checking the force of time. Who in this world can actually check the force of time? The force of time is unrelenting, and it is not possible to check it. Permanently, no one can check it. Even Parikshit Maharaj could not check it. But at least for a while, he could hold the influence of Kali, and he could banish Kali from his kingdom and keep it at bay. And that was possible only because he himself was like a devotee, and he actually kept those vices from his personal life, from his kingdom, from at a distance. So that's why it became a flourishing kingdom where devotion was also flourishing. Indirectly, Bhagavatam is saying, unless we keep these vices of Kali from our heart, away from our heart, devotion won't actually manifest. The qualification to hear Bhagavatam will not manifest in our heart unless we keep the vices of Kali away from our heart. So that is also being described in that particular chapter, in the 16, 17 chapter. And then he gets cursed. And we may see sometimes, oh, why did this happen to me? Or another devotee, they are devotees. So here Parikshit Maharaj is getting cursed. He was so great and still he gets cursed. Like, what kind of logic is that? Like, you explain his glories for like few chapters, that he is so great, he did that, he did this, and then he's just like, oh, he got cursed. Oh wow, like what is the use of him being great? Initially, the our material logic is like, oh, somebody was great, then everything should go smooth. But here, that Bhagavatam is showing that that curse is actually Krishna's way of protecting him. Otherwise, he would have lived a long life, and who knows, Sukadeva Goswami would have been around to speak or not. Was he interested to speak or not? Nobody knows. Krishna really cut short his life. You have done your duty, and it's also time for Kali to manifest. However, whatever services you have done, I'm going to give you benefit. But Krishna's way of giving benefit can be out of like different from our way of seeing it as a benefit. So Krishna's way of bringing in mercy, unlimited mercy, eternal glory to Parikshit Maharaj, was to give him a little bit of a, what do you call, a dark spot in his life, that he became angry at a sage and he garlanded him, and then he gets cursed. That's a very small thing. However, it brings about the eternal glory of him being that primary recipient of Bhagavatam in this Kali. But that had, like, there was a pain point there, that, oh yeah, for the rest of my life, the eternity, everyone will know that I lost my temper and I garlanded the sage, and then I got cursed by a simple little boy. Some may look at his life like that. What is the use? Such a glorious life, and then the climax seems like morose, because there are medieval Indian scholars who write about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like that. They say this Lord Chaitanya, he just came, and Krishna Chaitanya, he just revolutionized, and he brought in social and spiritual renaissance. He created such amazing impact, and then he became crazy for the last 18 years, and he was completely lost, and we don't hear clear records of what he did in those 18 years. And people say he got epilepsy. This is how modern scholars write about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The whole Antilila is dedicated to it. But a normal medieval Indian scholar who's seeing it from a mundane perspective sees it, oh, he just got epilepsy, he just lost it. So again here, another person reading Parikshit Maharaj's life may think, oh, what's the use of all of these? He just got cursed. Here again, the Bhagavatam is bringing out this. Yes, Krishna's way of showing mercy may be very different. But we need to be rest assured that anything that comes into our life, the good and the bad that comes into a devotee's life, is all Krishna's blessings. That's a very important qualification to be able to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. If only Parikshit Maharaj got overwhelmed. How in this world that I got cursed? I was such a nice devotee. I controlled Kali. I did everything right. Why would I get this damning curse on my head, like to die in 7 days? Why did Krishna protect me from this curse? So I don't have any more faith in Krishna. I give up. It doesn't work like this. So no, he had this complete faith, good or bad, both comes from Krishna. And Krishna knows what is best for me, and if this is coming from Krishna, I'll just accept it. And then he went, and that's how he got Sukadeva Goswami. So the Guru manifested because he had that implicit faith in Krishna. Both good and bad, everything comes from Krishna. So let me have faith in Krishna and continue my devotional process and eagerness to advance in bhakti. So then naturally the Guru comes, and the devotional knowledge also comes along with the Guru. So this is one way of looking at the Srimad Bhagavatam, how everything in the Canto One is all about Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And they are teaching us who's the right recipient of Bhagavatam and who is the right one to speak Bhagavatam. Suta Goswami is explaining to us like what it takes to be a speaker of a Bhagavatam, how advanced he is, how attached he is to Krishna. And Shaunaka the Rishis throughout the Canto One and further in the Bhagavatam will show that what it means to be an eager audience.